Boys and girls, I need your complete attention. Jabron, that means you. We are looking at this triangle, and we need to solve it. And what that means is we have to find angle Q, angle R, and side P. Now, did you just do that on your quiz?
Yes.
Yes, you did. What's different about this problem, though, Jack?
You don't have like both of them, say that you don't have both P's.
Exactly. Remember, in order to start the problem with the law of sines, which is what you did on your quiz, you have to have like a pair, right? So you either have to have, like Jack said, P and P, or you have to have Q and Q, or you have to have R and R. Do we have that? When you don't have both pieces of information, you don't have a pair, then you cannot use the law of sines.
Are you on 5, 6?
Yes. So that means that the law of sines won't work. That means we're going to do the law of cosines. Now, I'm going to write down the law of cosines. And you are going to freak out
And twerk out of joy.
because it looks so big and scary, but it is not. I want to remind you that the little letters, the lowercase letters, are the sides, and the capital letters are the angles. Notice that in the law of cosines, there was only one angle. See it?
Yeah.
Also notice that with all the stuff in the law, the angle you need or you're using is angle C, and that's the side that's over here all by itself. There are no other C's in the problem, right? So when I look at my problem, what's the only angle I have?
58.
Well, I have P, right? So that tells me when I set up my law of cosines for this problem, it's going to be P squared, because in my problem, I'm going to have cosine P. Now, why am I going to have cosine P? Because that's the only angle that I have. And the law of cosine says you got to have an angle, one angle. Now, what's going to be all the rest of this stuff in the middle? Well, it's not side C, so it would be the other two sides, right? So it would be 10 squared plus 13 squared minus 2 times 10 times 13 times cosine 58. Now, the letters in the law don't match the letters in this triangle, and that's irrelevant. What you're supposed to be seeing is the pattern. In the law of cosines, there is one angle. We don't have a choice. It has to be this one. That's the only one we have. So we're going to have cosine 58. Now, as soon as you put the 58 there, then you know the side that's over here is P squared. Because whatever the angle is, that's the side that you have over here by itself. And then all this other stuff in the middle is the other two sides. Do you see that? Not C, but A and B. So here's P. So we've got the other two sides. Now we're going to try another one here in a second, but first, let's type this in.
But first, we're going to take a selfie.
Now, when you type this in on your calculator, I think it's easiest, kids, to just type it in. Just straight type it in. So 10 squared plus 13 squared minus 2 times 10 times 13 times cosine 58 equals. I just typed it all straight in. Now, did you get 131?
Yeah.
Now, I want you to be real careful because this is the biggest mistake that's made. Remember, that's p squared. So what do we still have to do? Square root it. So if I were you, I would hit second square root, second answer. That takes the square root of your answer. And did you get 11.46?
Yeah.
I rounded it off to the nearest hundredth. We've been doing that. All right, so one more time. I just typed this straight in. Okay? That gives me this big number, 131. So I second square root, second answer. And it gave me 11.46. Now, Ethan Topham's all over this. Ethan says, wait a minute, Mrs. Ford, what do I now have? A pair. So now I can use my law of sines to finish the problem. So I'll say sine 58 over 11.46 equals what? What do you want to say next? Sine R over 10. Could I have done sine Q over 13? Yes. You just have to pick one and do it. Now, what do you do at this point? Cross multiply. So 10 sine 58 equals 11.46 sine R. Now I'm going to divide. What am I dividing by? 11.46, and that's going to give me the sine of angle R. So 10 sine 58, don't forget to close the parentheses, divided by 11.46. Did you get 0.74? Okay, but that's not the answer. Remember, what do we still need to do? Second sine, very good. Second sine, second answer. And for, is that R? For R, I got 47.73 degrees. Now, what are we still missing?
Q.
Q, but that's easy now, right? Because we have a 58 and a 47. So we'll find Q. I got 74.23, or 27, I'm sorry, 74.27.
Yeah.
Whoa, that is a major problem, isn't it? That's a lot of stuff. How did I know, I mean, I ended up doing some law of sines, but how did I know again in the beginning that I couldn't? I didn't have this, right? I need this. So I had to use my law of cosines. Whew, that's a huge problem. Let's try C. Now we're going to skip, I'm going to skip one for a minute. We're going to C. Now I know, I'm going to put my law of cosines back up there. I know this is a lot. But most kids find this easy after they practice a few times. So when I look at my problem, directions say solve the triangle, just like it did on your quiz. The first thing you want to do is see if you can use your law of sines. So we look and see. Let's see, this would be side E. So we look and see. Do we have a set? No. Okay, so now I'm going to set up my law of cosines. And everything hinges on the angle that you're going to use. Okay? I don't have a choice, right? I'm gonna use this angle. So in my problem, I'm gonna have the cosine of 104. Would everybody agree with that? That means what is over here? Not 104 squared, it's little e. Little e has to be over here. If you put big E into the equation here, then this is going to be little e over here. Now what's all this in the middle going to be? The other two sides, right. So it's going to be 12 squared, and the order doesn't matter. The order doesn't matter. So it's 12 squared plus 16 squared minus 2 times 12 times 16. Katie's your hand up? Oh no, I understand. So using the letters in ours, our law of cosines looks like this. E squared equals f squared plus d squared minus 2fd cosine e. The letters aren't important. I don't want you to get hung up on the letters. What's important is the pattern. That if this is angle E, this has to be side E. Now, were you able to type all that in? So you got 12 squared plus 16 squared minus 2 times 12 times 16 times cosine 104. Now, did you get a big number, 492?
Yeah.
What do you do with that now? You gotta square root it. You gotta take the square root of that, so hit second square root, second answer. Did you get 22.20? Now, at this point, you get a little more joyful, because what do we now have? Now we have our pair. So as we continue on in the problem, we can now use the law of sines. So we'll say sine 104 over 22.2 equals sine, now it doesn't matter, whichever one you want. Which one do you want to do? F, so it'll be sine F over 12. And then what happens? Cross multiply. So 12 sine 104 equals 22.2 sine F. And what do I divide by? I heard somebody say it, 22.2. Remember, this is just some crazy decimal, right? What do you have to do with this decimal? Second sign, second answer, very, very good. And for angle F, I got 31.63. Then the last step's easy. You now have 104 and a 31. How do you find angle D? Yep, just subtract them from 180. And I got 44.37. How about you? Is that okay? All right. Now let's back up and try B. We're going to do some of the same stuff on B. Okay. The directions say solve the triangle. This time, what am I solving for then? What do I need to find? All the angles. I don't have any angles. Now, that means automatically I am not going to be using the law of sines, right? Because I do not have a pair, so there's no way it's going to be a law of sines. Could I use the law of cosines? Yeah, actually I can. And let's just use the exact letters that I have up there because this is triangle ABC and I've got A's, B's, and C's there. So let's just do it. If I'm going to use the law of cosines, then the first, and I use those letters right there, I'm going to find angle C. What is going to be right here? If I am eventually going to be finding angle C, what's going to be right here? 10 squared. I'll write 100 because I know that's what 10 squared is.
Is that a small C?
Yes, that's a small c. This, I'm sorry, yes. This is a big C. This is a small c. Okay? It's a great question. It's important. It's a good question. I should have done better with my writing. So what's 100 going to equal? 100 is going to equal 144. You see where I got that? Plus 196. See where I got that? Minus 2 times 12 times 14 times cosine C. Want to make a point I haven't made yet. If it's solvable, every triangle will be solvable using either the law of sines or the law of cosines. So as soon as you know that the law of sines won't work, then you're going to use the law of cosines. It will work every time. Now, let's multiply, let's do 2 things before we get started. 100 equals, let's add these 2 together. Just these 2. This is an addition. What do you get? 340. Now, let's multiply 2 times 12 times 14. 336. Now, I want everyone's beady little eyes focused on me for a minute. These 2 numbers do not subtract because this one is hooked to a cosine. So instead of subtracting these 2 numbers, you're going to subtract 340 from both sides. And you're going to have negative 240 equal to negative 336 cosine C. What do you think you'll do next? So 240 over 336 equals cosine C. Now, can you type that fraction in on your calculator? Sure you can. 240 divided by 336. Got a decimal, right? What do you think you need to do with that decimal to find angle C? Second cosine it. Second cosine that answer, and 44.42 is our angle. We do not have a quiz on Monday. We're going to spend more time with the law of cosines, so just try to be open-minded and relax a little bit. You are not done with the problem, though, groupies. You still have more to find.
B and A.
We still have B and A to find. What's your thought? Now, could we repeat the process with a different angle? Yes. But what might be easier now that we have an angle? Law of sines. So we can say sine 44.42 over 10 equals sine A over 12, maybe? What now? 12 sine 44.42 equals 10 sine A. Dividing by 10. Now you got a decimal, hopefully. What do I have to do now to get my angle? Second sine. And I got 57.13. Anybody confirm that?
Yep.
So I got a 57 and a 44, and I want to find the other angle. So 57.13 and 44.42 subtracted from 180, 78.45. And you solved the triangle. Okay? Now what I want to do just for a couple minutes, and then I'll stop, but for a couple minutes, I wanted, this is not on your note sheet, so either find a spare space or get another sheet of paper out. I just want you to practice setting up the law of cosines. We're not going to type it in on the calculator, we're just going to set it up. So let's suppose we had this triangle.
Ethan.
Can anybody set up the law of cosines for me? Kaylin, awesome. That's okay, honey. I'm going to have you do it anyway. You can do it.
Okay, C squared,
Very good.
A squared.
Okay, wait, now, I want you to plug in the numbers. It would be C squared, though, because this is our angle. So this is C squared, so now you're going to have the other two sides. So
14 squared plus 15 squared.
Yep. Minus.
Minus 2 and then times 14 times.
Yep. And then don't forget times cosine 83. That is the law of cosine. She set that up perfectly. She said, this is the angle I'm going to use, so this is the side that's over here by itself. Very good, Caitlin. All right, now I need another volunteer. Anybody else want to stretch at the wrong time? I need another volunteer.
I'll do it before.
Thank you.
Q squared.
Yep, this is a little q here, so it's going to be q squared equals
10 squared plus 11 squared minus 2, 10, 11, cosines, 68.
You are an all-star, law cosine superstar. That's it. That's the setup. That's the setup. All right. Madison, you've been awfully quiet. So I'm going to let you do this one. Okay. All right, are you ready? Yeah. Okay. What's your middle name?
Starts with an
M? Oh, well, that's not good. I can't have two M's.
C. I have a second middle name.
You have two middle names. Awesome. What's that one?
Cecilia.
C? All right, so here she goes. Here, this is Madison's triangle. Here we go. Madison, set up my law of cosines for me.
J squared.
This is little j over here, so j squared equals
10 squared plus 18 squared minus 2 times 10 and 18 cosine 73.
beautiful. Your homework for tonight is in your textbook. So please do your homework problems tonight. Thomas, could you turn me off?
Yeah.
Do your homework problems